Favor, yes. So it carries. Any other amendments to the budget?
There is so much to discuss in here. I mean, now we're at 37,000 to stay within. We need to find 37,000 to stay under the tax cap. I think we can do it. I think we just need to keep working on it. I think that there are other sources of revenue. The estimated revenue we have from sales tax is lower than the amount we'll actually get. The same with STR fees. They're both, tens of thousands lower than, it is true that a nuclear bomb could happen and the world could go into a depression. That is true. However, the trends every year, these numbers have been more. I think that if everything stays the same with STRs, we'll be at 61,000 in our budget. We're at 40 or we're at 45. So we could go to 50, and that's still not going to 60. So, and there are definitely places where I think we can save money too. I know to some people $3,000 is meaningless. I think that we should look at those places where we can save those $3,000 here and there. So I think we should have another meeting and keep working on it.
Can I just remind you of one thing?
Yes.
You, as a board, haven't decided what you're doing with the water budget. If you're going to leave it as the preliminary budget, not the proposal, then that's 15,000 back in. I just want to remind you that.
So I don't know. There's so many numbers. Where I got the 40,000 from. I would have to sit here and look at it and think about it, and in front of 20 people, I can't do that. But when I asked you, you said that 40,000 is roughly correct as far as the gap.
At the proposal, okay.
I got it. It would be 55,000 basically if we put the water back in, but then we're going to have to definitely agree on increasing water rents to 110 to take that 15,000 back out.
Also, we added 20,000 in bed tax, so that's where I got the 40.
Okay. We're gonna go back to the preliminary budget that was accepted by the board.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So at that one, that brought us to give me 1 second. Not the wrong figure here. We were 50,923 over at the preliminary budget.
Meaning the gap between meeting the tax cap and what our levy is going to be.
Correct.
50,923.
Yes. Now, with the proposed changes, that brought you to, excuse me. I've got myself confused with all these numbers now. I had it down to 3.9 using that 50, the figures that I just gave you. Brought it down to 3.9. If you put the 15 back into the water, that's going to bring us to 5% even.
Even with adding the 20 from bed tax?
Yes. It's still
okay.
Using that 20, but putting the 15 back in water.
What do you think? What is the gap? The gap. What we're estimating to raise in the property tax levy, the gap between what the 2% tax cap would be, with what we're allowed to raise while staying within that 2%, which is like 26,000, I think.
Right.
Right. So, and then what is the gap between what we're projecting to raise in the tax levy and that 26,000? You said we're at. So I think we should have another special meeting on the budget where we can.
No. Okay. I'm not. We can vote on it. So right
I'll
now,
make a motion. We should have a special meeting.
That's fine, but I'm in charge of the motion right now. So the motion is to adopt the preliminary budget. I think Darren's pointed out that when we sit down and talk about the water rates with Eddie, it's going to reduce the levy by the 15,000.
If we go to 110.
That's what I'm saying. If it's discussed, I mean, that's where we can reduce the levy to back to the 3-point-something% that Nicole is
The
discussing.
preliminary budget.
Minus a little bit more because we added 3,000 more in the other, so it'd probably be at like 3.7 or something.
Okay, so, I mean, that's still open, but right now, I'm gonna make a motion to accept those as the changes to the preliminary budget and adopt the same as the final budget, so we can submit this to the county. That's a motion.
I'll second the motion with those changes being enacted in the water budget.
So,
So you'd be increasing the revenues another 15, as much as you just did again. But putting Eddie's money back the way it was, but then we're gonna increase it again another 15,000 in revenue.
So leave it at the preliminary.
Yes. But increase revenues another 15,000 and take that 15,000 off from the tax levy. From water rents.
Okay.
I would like to see this on paper before I vote on it, to be honest with you.
no,
There's so many hypotheticals.
What's hypothetical? I mean, basically,
I mean,
the
we're
only,
throwing
two
numbers.
things.
no, the only change that we've made to the preliminary budget is the thing that was put in about the revenues.
we've made $3,700 in changes to general fund, and we're increasing water revenues approximately 15,000. Those are the only two changes we went. There's nothing hypothetical.
Darren, I need clarification, I'm sorry.
is what I'm saying.
The actual preliminary budget
Mhm.
was
Based on $100 water rent.
correct.
And we're saying base the revenues off from $110 water rent.
I get that.
Mhm.
But the preliminary also had the tax levy at the same as it was for 24.
Correct.
Is that what I'm still doing?
No, you're gonna put it to the preliminary budget.
That is the preliminary budget. That's why.
Without doing any of these cuts that you just proposed, leaving the cuts, or leaving it the way it was proposed,
Right,
and then increasing the water rents again in the revenue department, which would then come off from the tax levy and not come out of Eddie's budget.
okay, so you want me to reduce the tax levy?
With the additional, the first increase that we proposed, which was to 100, basically just paid for Eddie's increases. The second increase, which we're saying tonight, to 110, used to decrease the tax levy. Correct, Tina?
Yes. Can you write that down for me so I can make this resolution the right way?
Well, we can't really, we haven't changed the water rents yet, so
Oh, I thought you were voting on this now.
we were gonna talk to Eddie
First, before we vote on this.
before we agree. All we're doing is plugging in a figure for projected revenues from water rents.
Okay,
All we're doing is basically agreeing on a projected revenue.
okay.
Yeah, the revenue gets set. We know what we're spending.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, and so, the budget is, based on, sort of what we're conjecturing to be the revenue. Okay, and so, we know what the expending, that hasn't changed. What we're saying is that we're going to conjecture that we're gonna have at least $83,700 of bed tax money that we can apply towards, those appropriations. That one's straightforward, to BTI, blah, 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 blah. The other thing is that we are going to set, as a placeholder, putting in, water rates at 110 so that we can finalize this budget. And then we will set the revenue, and that will affect the levy when the levy is made in January. That's when everyone will know what the levy is.
Do you have a business rate too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is double. So
So,
it'll be 220 base rate every 6 months.
all right, so we started with the motion in a second.
So to alleviate my own complete confusion, to stay within the tax cap, we can increase the tax levy by 26,300. How much we don't know how much we're increasing the tax levy by at this point? Do we know? And if so, what is that number?
I'm sorry,
Because it's basically gonna be the same. What's the 3.9% increase? Because basically we're more or less staying with this.
We're just funding it
Proposal.
differently.
Just switching where the money is
right, so the preliminary budget as offered was at 3.9.
No, as this proposed, he's asking.
Of the proposed rate. I don't know.
You mean the updated or the,
6.7.
that's where we're staying at?
No,
No.
that's where it was.
Right, but at 3.9? We're staying at 3.9 roughly, then the gap is 40,000, and I think we can find that money. You know, we have a cleaner at 3,000, we're going to hire a new office employee. We can get rid of that 3,000 and assign that to the new office employee. We have a deputy town clerk, we're going to hire a new office employee. How do we need a deputy town clerk? Like, we should be looking at all of this. We should be looking at STR fees on home vacation rentals. If those go up by $100.
No salary unless she does something when I'm not here. Wait, like the meeting, you'll have to pay her out of, because of the meeting. But she has no salary.
I know, but we're getting into the weeds.
Yes,
Okay.
as we should. And as we should get that down below 3.9, and we could if we wanted to. Apparently the rest of the board doesn't want to, so we won't.
So let's go back to what the motion was.
We'll also be getting money from facilities use fees.
Can I please, the motion, I have the floor, please.
So we're in discussion.
Or not, I'm making, the motion was to amend the preliminary budget to include the bed tax, increase in revenue in the bed tax to $83,700. The appropriations were outlined by Nicole.
You already did.
I know, I'm just
Okay.
reiterating
Okay.
because we got lost. And the second part is that we are going to continue staying with the, we're going to amend the water district revenue by increasing the water rate charges to 110 as a placeholder, and that there'll be no other amendments. Is that right?
No.
Correct. That's correct?
No,
So that's
you're moving, are we moving money out of the tax levy? Isn't that what the discussion was? The last part of that? Don't we have
By
to move that
increasing the
number?
rates, that's
By
what he's saying.
Right, but we have to change that number as well, right?
Yeah, it will change. As soon as we add that revenue into the,
I
it will
need to see
change.
it on paper. I'm sorry.
I think we should have another meeting about the budget. I don't know why.
I'll second it.
I don't know why the refusal to have that
You
meeting.
already did second it.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Tim,
Obviously, we should have another meeting. No.
Jerry,
Darren?
Yes.
Laura,
Nope.
Tina. Yes. Favor?
Yes, carried. Thank you. So the next thing on the agenda is a discussion about the permit fees and forms. I don't think we'll be taking any action tonight. I'm going to be